Welcome back here, everybody, to episode 20 for your Monday, your Wear Monday edition of In Hindsight. I know that we had to do Monday last week, and we're doing Monday this week, so next weekend we should be back to the normal schedule. But what can you do? You know, sometimes, you get busy, sometimes things... you just got things going on and you got to kind of sometimes adjust things. It's just how it goes. And sometimes, you got to do that. But nonetheless, hopefully you guys are starting off your Monday with with a bang, or hopefully that it's going good to start your week. Mondays are absolutely terrible, whether you're going to school, work. Mondays are the worst. They are at the end of the day. But thank you guys for tuning in today, and hopefully I can make your Mondays a little bit more bearable, whatever it might be. But nonetheless, I mean, we got some things to go into. It's not going to be as long as an episode as it was yesterday or even last weekend. But there's a few things I want to cover, though. And, we're just going to kind of jump right into it on this one. I know sometimes, I'll kind of talk about something going into the show or things like that, but we're going to kind of change the pace a little bit. We're just going to get right into it. I don't know how much of wrestling fans you guys are. I know we don't cover wrestling here. I've been a wrestling fan for, quite a really long time. I really got into wrestling when I was probably around 4th grade or so. And really since then, I've always been a fan of professional wrestling. And yes, last night was Money in the Bank, and it was a great show, and it's refreshing to see WWE, and I'm not going to go into it because, I'm not covering wrestling on this. I would, but, I'm just going to stick to, what we talk about and just everything happened on in sports, but it was just, I just want to mention it was a great show. So if you're a wrestling fan, I'm sure you enjoyed it last night. It's just great to see fans back. It was a sold out crowds. The main event of Edge and Roman Reigns, they tore it down. Absolutely great to just see things back to normal, man. And that, we're seeing those, all the fans back, and it's electric. The atmosphere is great. And so it's just, refreshing as well to see them put on a good show, because we know how bad the product has gotten over the years, and it seems like it gets worse over the year, but all you can do is just hope for the best. But nonetheless, it was a good start to, getting, stepping in the right direction with fans being back. And hopefully their build to SummerSlam's pretty good. But nonetheless, if you guys watched it, I'm sure you enjoyed it. We saw the big surprise at the end as well. We'll see what happens tonight on Monday Night Raw. But nonetheless, I'm telling you, I would cover wrestling. Because like I said, I'm a big wrestling fan. And even, honestly, even before I did this show, I was considering covering wrestling, but the thing is, it's that, the shows just kept getting bad, and I just kind of stopped caring, if that made sense. You know what I mean? So, but hopefully this is the direction, the right step with crowds being back, and hopefully WWE can go full force. I mean, AEW's been doing good things too, but that's all you can hope for, I guess. But nonetheless, we'll get right into the show today. Yeah, so start off with the NBA Finals. It's crazy with the NBA Finals, because I think when the Suns were up 2-0, I think that we all kind of thought, okay, the Suns have been tearing it up this playoffs. They're playing really well. This isn't going to be much of a series, maybe. I think maybe a lot of people were kind of thinking maybe Suns, it would take 5 games or so. But once Milwaukee won that Game 3, we knew Milwaukee was going to win a home game at least. But really, once they won that Game 3, I mean, that's when... And looking at it right now, yes, we can say that. But when they won that, I'm like, you know what, man? Something just clicked with that team. And they kind of found the blueprint, I feel like, in regards of... how to play the Suns. And I'm like, you know what? This could be the factor in regards to them taking the series back in their hands. And that's what they've done. They're up 3-2 right now. They beat the Suns in Phoenix in Game 5. They won 3 in a row. It's an absolute collapse right now for the Suns. The Suns just cannot match up to Milwaukee physically. They cannot out-rebound Milwaukee. Milwaukee is bigger. The Suns are not a big team. When you look at their lineup, when you look at their bench, they're not a big team. And you look at Milwaukee, Giannis is a freak, right? Middleton is a big guy playing the forward. Lopez, he's not a big rebounder, but he's still a big guy. You got a guy like a Bobby Portis who's very physical coming off the bench. They're not. Like, they're just... I think that's really the biggest factor right now that's weighing on the Suns, is that they just cannot keep up with the physicality and the size of Milwaukee. Now, the Suns are kind of a more faster team, I think, but Milwaukee, that's been really playing in their advantage the last few games, and I think that's really been a big part. And turnovers, and that's the thing, turnovers have been a big thing for the Suns too. It's been hurting them. And what we saw in game 4, Chris Paul kind of turned it over and had a big turnover. And even in game 5, we saw Devin Booker turn over the ball. That led to a fast break with Giannis. And we saw the Suns, I think, were down by 3. And I think it might have been Giannis or somebody that missed the free throw. And the Suns couldn't get the rebounds. And there you go. Milwaukee's just playing much more physical basketball right now. And the Suns just can't keep up with that. Chris Paul has been a dud in the finals. He was doing good things the first couple games, but these last 3 games, he's been miserable. Turnovers, he's trying to do too much. He isn't scoring the way that we've seen him. Devin Booker's been really the guy doing the most. DeAndre Ayton, I don't think DeAndre Ayton's had a good finals at all. I think DeAndre Ayton, he's had some foul trouble some of the games, but I don't think he's getting involved a whole lot. He's not rebounding the ball efficiently the way he was. He's inconsistent on the offensive side. Just things aren't clicking with the Suns team right now, man. And they're worried. And game 2's tomorrow night, I believe, at 9:00. I don't know. Devin Booker's really the only consistent scorer on that for them. Jay Crowder, he's made some. Mikal Bridges is inconsistent as it comes. Cam Johnson, he's done some good things, but, he isn't going to, if it's just him and Devin Booker, that's not going to do you anything. You need Chris Paul, you need DeAndre Ayton to really get back into the mix of things, and that's what they need to do in Game 6 here. You need Chris Paul to not just be that facilitator he is, but you need the Chris Paul of the playoffs that we've had for Game 6. Chris Paul needs to have his best game of the playoffs in Game 6 by far, because he's not scoring the ball, he's turning over the ball, he's trying to do too much, and it's costing the team. And I don't know, man. Milwaukee's had a pretty good home court, and I think when you got that felt good. I think when you got just the pace they're on right now, how well they're playing and they're clicking right now in these last 3 games, that's just hard to stop. And with how bad the Suns have been playing, you got to turn it around a blink of an eye or else you're done. So Milwaukee's probably going to win. The Suns, it's been a great run. It has. And I'm not sitting here saying the Suns are complete toast. They can definitely win. But nonetheless, the Suns have had a great run. It's been a great thing for the city of Phoenix and those fans that they finally have something to cheer about. They finally have a winning team, because the Cardinals, yes, the Cardinals have had some good teams in the 2010s, and we saw their success in the late 2000s. But for the most part, the Cardinals haven't accomplished anything, though. The Diamondbacks are a disaster, and they have a long ways to go, especially with where they're at as a team. So right now with the Suns, it's been a great story. It's been a fun season for them and for all the fans. They've obviously enjoyed it, but it sucks because being up 2-0 and now you're going to lose 4 in a row? No, you can't do that. And I hope the Suns win because I'd love to see it go to Game 7. I've been cheering on the Suns, honestly. But you got to give credit to Milwaukee, man. They're hitting their shots. They're playing very physical. They're out-rebounding the Suns. Giannis, Middleton, Holiday have all kind of come together these last 3 games. Connaughton's been a great X factor off the bench. Bobby Portis has had some good games too. Brook Lopez has been a guy as well that's been able to put up double-digit points throughout these last few games. So I think Milwaukee's done a good job at just taking away. Yes, the Suns have, that's the thing. The Suns are a good 3-point shooting team. They're still knocking down threes, but I think really all those things factored in that I just mentioned. It's been a disaster for them. They're playing Chris Paul well. They've gotten Ayton into foul trouble. They're just playing at a higher level than the Suns are right now, and the Suns really need to change that, or else, you're done Tuesday. So, I don't know. Time will tell on it, man. I think Devin Booker's been really the guy carrying the load. He's awesome, man. It's moments like this in regards of NBA creating new stars, and Devin Booker is that. But it can't just be him. And that's what I'm saying. Chris Paul is he has to come out Tuesday night, and he has to have the freaking game of his life Tuesday. This is do or die, Chris. You haven't been here before. You've done so many great things for this team leading up to this. You can't have it end this way, man. You have to do everything you can, and you got to come out swinging. DeAndre Ayton has got to be that double-double machine, that defensive anchor for them down low. They got to get better production from Bridges. They got to get better production from some of the guys on their bench, too, because Milwaukee's bench is outplaying them as well, and that's obviously a huge factor, too. So, I don't know. Game 2's Tuesday. Right now, I think, obviously, Milwaukee, it's leaning toward their way. But it's hard for me to see the Suns just not show up. I think the Suns will show up Tuesday night. But the thing is, it's just, how's it going to go? That's really the question. How is Chris Paul, how is DeAndre Ayton going to show up? I'm not doubting Devin Booker. Devin Booker had one bad final game. It happens. I'm not doubting Devin Booker. It's going to come down to Paul. It's going to come down to Ayton. It's going to come down to the role players as well, needing to show up and provide meaningful minutes. And Suns need to play more physical. They have to stop the turnovers. They got to get the rebounds, especially in crunch time. You got to win the possession battle, my friend. You got to win the board battle. So, time will tell on that. NBA Finals Tuesday night. We'll see what goes down with it. I don't know. Let's go into NFL. So, there's a few things NFL related. So, we know training camp is starting up this week. Wednesday, I believe the Cowboys reporting. Thursday, I know the Steelers reporting. The Broncos might be Thursday. There's a couple other teams Thursday. I can't remember. But anyway, training camp's coming up this week. I'm excited. There's going to be a lot of things coming out of training camp we'll get into. But right now, there's one big story that kind of came out earlier this week. So Tom Brady apparently was playing and played in the Super Bowl with a torn MCL in his knee. This doesn't surprise me. This doesn't surprise me that he has a big injury like that, and he is playing through it. It really doesn't surprise me at all. Tom Brady's one of those guys, man, where, and yes, it's a Super Bowl, but Tom Brady's one of those guys that is rare. Yes, we know he's the best quarterback of all time, but he's one of those athletes where it's just so rare where, well, I don't necessarily want to say rare because we see it, but he's just different. He's just different than a lot of these other athletes. Just from training, we know from, how dedicated he is every single day of the offseason. And we see that with his longevity playing. And Brady's never really had any bad injuries necessarily. We know he hurt his knee, blew out his knee, I believe, what was it, the 2009 season for New England? I think it was 2009. When Matt Castle had to come and start. Was it 2009? It was 2008 or 2009. I can't remember what year it was. First game of the year. Nonetheless, though, this doesn't surprise me because Tom Brady is one of those guys where he will legitimately do whatever it takes to win. He will do whatever it takes to take his team on his back and, do what he can for his team to, win it all. And in this case, it was the championship. Now, if this was something else, a game in the playoffs, he still would have did this. But he's going to do whatever it takes. It's Tom freaking Brady. And, the fact of playing that with that kind of injury is absolutely insane. This isn't a separated shoulder. This isn't a hyperextended knee. This isn't a sprain. This is a straight up torn MCL, which can keep you out of action long ass time. But Brady's expected to be ready to go for, training camp, be healthy start of the year. So I don't exactly know. I don't think it was said in regards of when he tore his ACL. But I think that just nonetheless, just the fact of play, it's just incredible. But it doesn't surprise me. It's Tom Brady. If you hear anything, that's my dog crying. She hears the garage going up. So if you hear anything, I'm going to let her out here in a second. But hold on, let me let her out. All right, sorry about that, folks. Had to let the dog out. She heard the garage go up, so she wanted to see what was going on. Sorry about that little second interruption there. So, but yeah. Anyway, going back to what we were talking about, with Brady, it just doesn't surprise me at all. The guy's just a different breed than so many others, and it's just impressive. Of just playing through that kind of thing. And like I said, who knows? I don't think it was said when the injury actually happened. It could have been sometime later in the season. Could have been early on in the playoffs. I don't know unless I missed that. Anyway, yeah, just really cool to just to kind of see that, But that's Tom Brady, man. That's Tom Brady. Also, Adrian Peterson is still on the market. He's looking for another team. This guy is, how old is this guy now? 36 years old? Adrian Peterson, man, just one of the best running backs of all time for sure. But I don't know. I don't really know how much interest there's going to be in a guy like that. It's not, when he was on Detroit, it's not that he can't do anything, right? Like, if you bring him in as like a backup guy, he can still do a lot for you, and he can still get some yards. He can still, you put him in there at the goal line. He can still get you in. But I don't really know what team's going to look at him at this point in time in his career and this old and sign him. Maybe he'll be signed. It's a possibility he could be signed sometime in the middle of the season. If a running back, goes down, or a backup running back goes down, they could bring a guy like that in. I really don't even know. At this point in his career, I don't really know how many teams would want a guy like that. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, too, is if you're, to me, yes, in sports, age obviously is a factor. But at the end of the day, if you're still performing and you're still playing well, age is honestly meaningless. If you're still playing and you can still produce and offer something to the team, age is irrelevant. So Adrian Peterson, even though, he was with Detroit and, the last year or two, being 34, 35 years old, he was still producing for him. He was still being productive at that kind of age. So time will tell on AP. We'll see what AP does. And also Melvin Ingram, I didn't mention this on yesterday's show because it wasn't reported, but Melvin Ingram is in Pittsburgh today for a visit with the Steelers. Now, the Steelers, we obviously, see that behind the TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, they are lacking depth back there. So bringing a guy like Melvin Ingram, he's not going to be a starter. He's not going to be playing every down, but bringing a guy, if they bring in a guy like that, that's definitely going to be a big addition. Bringing a guy like that who, he's only 32. It's not necessarily that's old for an edge rusher. I don't view that as old. But he can still, you know what I mean, take some pressure off of Watt, off of Highsmith, if they need to, get on the sideline for a bit, you know what I mean, take a quick breather, whatever it might be. He can step in and be that third edge rusher for them, and I think that would be huge, bringing in a guy like that to help, solidify that group and, to be that precaution, to be that third guy behind them. Like I said, to take some pressure off if they need some kind of relief in some kind of way. He can be that guy coming in and, still have production there for them. So he's in for a visit. He's also visited with Miami, I believe, and there was another team. I can't remember. But we'll see. We'll see if he leaves with the contract or not. I don't know. The Steelers were previously interested in Justin Houston, but that kind of fell through for now. So they shifted their attention to Melvin Ingram. We'll see what comes out of it. They were also interested in Ryan Kerrigan before he was taken off the market. And that was kind of a sign that they want to upgrade that position. They had shown interest in Malik Hooker. They brought him in, but I don't really know what the deal is with Malik Hooker. He's visited quite a lot of teams. We'll see what comes out of it. We'll see what happens. But Melvin Ingram in Pittsburgh. And, what's going to be interesting, too, is I said training camp is in a few days. Well, so is the NHL expansion draft. And I briefly went over this a little bit yesterday in the Penguins. But I'm interested in regards of, some of the teams' unprotected list. Now, we saw with the Golden Knights. When the Golden Knights had their expansion draft a few years ago, back in 2018, I believe, the Golden Knights, after that, they really kind of became instant contenders. And, you look at them now. They had a deep run the playoffs this year. They've really been making the playoffs fairly consistently ever since they became a team. So with the Kraken, the Seattle Kraken expansion draft coming up July 21st in 2 days, what I'm going to try to do is sometime, what day is the 1st? So that would be a Wednesday. So probably what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try, like I've been saying, I've been wanting to try to put out some extra content during the week. So that might be something to look out for in regards of, going over and breaking down the expansion draft. Now, I'm assuming it's Wednesday night, so we probably won't do it Wednesday night. We probably would do something more like on Thursday, possibly Friday at the latest in regards to that extra content there. But I don't know. I've been looking at, and you hockey fans, maybe you guys have been looking at some of the, maybe some predictions or some mock draft things for this expansion draft for Seattle. So, nonetheless, I don't know. I looked at one the other day and I was like, okay, this one, yeah. I don't know. They were kind of looking mediocre, but I think it really depends. I'm interested to see, is it going to be something, is Seattle going to be something where they get some good pieces for this team and they can kind of find themselves more quicker than not in contention? Or are they going to, or is it going to take some more time for them to really kind of develop as a group? Because I know nothing about their head coach. I don't know anything about him. I'm very unfamiliar with him. I love their logo. I love their uniforms. I think it's great. Seattle is getting a hockey team. I'd love to see the Sonics come back in the NBA at some point. But yeah, if a team moves to Seattle, I don't know. But I'm excited to cover the expansion draft, so just kind of keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to do like a prediction or a mock draft thing because, quite frankly, I haven't gone over all the teams' protected lists. I've seen the Penguins, I've seen, a couple other teams like the Rangers and stuff like that. But I'm not going to do that here. I'd rather just kind of cover it and just do a brief breakdown of what we've seen from the expansion draft, maybe what to expect from Seattle going into the season. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's coming up July 21st, couple days. That's exciting. And Major League Baseball, so the trade deadline is really kind of the biggest thing right now in regards of really what we're looking at. And I think some names that can definitely be on the move. Where the Cubs are kind of sitting at that 500 spot. Now, I don't see the Cubs making the playoffs. I didn't think they would make the playoffs going this year. I did not like their pitching staff at all. They just traded Jock Peterson to the Atlanta Braves a few days ago. And I didn't really care much for some of the position players they've had. I think Jason Hayward's time's coming up there. Ian Happ, I mean, he can, he's shown good things in his young career so far, but he hasn't really been, this breakout guy this year. But I still think he has potential on his side for sure. Javier Baez has been a major disappointment for the Cubs. This guy, I'm pretty sure, is leading the National League in strikeouts. Chris Bryant's having a really nice bounce-back season, and I think where the Cubs are sitting, the Cubs aren't going to make the playoffs, okay? Their pitching staff's terrible. They have a good bullpen, which, I think was a surprise. They could maybe make a move or two out of there. But Chris Bryant, I think, is the Cubs' biggest trade piece right now because there's some teams, like I've seen the Mets, I've seen the Phillies. I think Minnesota has kind of thrown their name into it. I think really there's a lot of teams that could really take on a guy like a Chris Bryant. I believe last time I looked, he's hitting over 270, has 16 home runs. I'm not quite sure about his OPS, on-base percentage, things like that. I haven't dove into that. I haven't, done my research necessarily in that regard. But Chris Bryant, nonetheless, is having a nice bounce-back season, and he's probably the Cubs' biggest trade piece right now. And I think what the Cubs need to do, the Cubs don't need to tear it down, but the Cubs definitely need to, they need to, go in kind of a retooling, maybe more of a, if they see a little bit of a slight rebuild kind of thing, because, in 2015 when the Cubs won 97 games, they were the second wild card. Okay, they made it to the NLCS, I believe, that season. Then the year after that, they got over the hump. They finally won the World Series. When that happened, a lot of people were thinking, okay, this is going to be a dynasty. You know what I mean? Rizzo, Bryant, Arrieta, John Lester, Kyle Hendricks, Javier Baez, Addison Russell before he became a joke, Jason Haywards, Kyle Schwarber. They had some other guys that were coming up. That this could be a dynasty. And the thing is, it didn't turn out that way. The Cubs, they kind of been more of a disappointment. They didn't really make the runs in the playoffs. I think a lot of people really these last 3-4 years, a lot of people were kind of thinking they might have. And this year, they're, like I said, they're kind of more of an average, mediocre team right now. And I think what they need to do, I think if the price is right, you definitely make some moves. You make a move for Baez, Bryant, things like that. Because if you're going to keep this same core going forward, well, really the thing that you're needing to do is you're going to need to go out and be a big spender in free agency then. But depending where the Cubs see themselves, I don't know where they're really kind of viewing the big landscape of things. But as a viewer, outside looking in, if you have a great offer to strengthen your farm system, you know what I mean, and to just kind of rebuild some of that team, you move a guy or two like that. They need starting pitching desperately. They really do. Like I said, they have some good guys in the bullpen, but the thing is with the Cubs is, I don't know. I think Chris Bryant's probably the biggest guy that could get moved. Javier Baez has been a good player for them, but really this year he's been an absolute disaster. And the Cubs just haven't been going in the direction that management and fans and people really thought they were going to. So I think the Cubs could definitely make a move or two. I definitely see them being sellers to an extent. Who's also kind of another name that we were saying? Oh, yeah, Trevor Story. Trevor Story's another guy that's been rumored around in regards of the trade deadline coming up, and I think the Reds and the Yankees have been some teams that have been on Trevor Story. The Rockies are definitely going to move him for sure. The Rockies have nothing going for him. There's no reason in keeping a guy like this because you're sitting in a place, you're one of the worst teams in the league. You're not going to be competing this year. You're not going to be competing really anytime soon for the most part, and you're going to have to be, they're in a rebuilding spot. So you move a guy like Trevor Story, you maybe try to get some high-end prospects from him. Now, the Yankees obviously would be a good thing for the Rockies because the Yankees are good at scouting. They're good at developing talent. They always have good guys in the system. So the Rockies might be able to find some things that might be interesting for Trevor Story. The Cincinnati Reds, on the other hand, I mean, the Reds could definitely win that division. Probably between them and Milwaukee, it's looking right now. The Cardinals, I don't necessarily want to count out. But the Reds are going to be buyers, for sure. And I think the Reds could, they could definitely use a guy like Story. Story has good power. They could use some help there at short and middle of the infield. So that wouldn't be a bad move for them either. But the Rockies, I think, are in a different spot than the Cubs because, the Cubs are at 500. And who knows? I mean, they could go on a run for all we know. But I think the Cubs are looking at being more sellers than they are buyers, before July 30th or whatever day the trade deadline is. So the Rockies are just in a spot. I think they're in a similar spot like the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks don't have, and that's another team, the Diamondbacks don't have anything going for them. The Diamondbacks farm system isn't anything to celebrate about. The Diamondbacks, again, are one of the worst teams in the league. Eduardo Escobar, Christian Walker, David Peralta are definitely some guys that they could look to move. I think David Peralta and Escobar in particular are guys they should move. But the Diamondbacks need to completely tear the whole thing down. They need to revamp that whole farm system. They need to they need to, because if the Diamondbacks don't, they're one of those teams. See, here's the thing: you're either competing, you know what I mean, like you're a championship contender, you're competing. Maybe you're competing. You're kind of more on a playoff team, not really quite there yet, championship, but you're kind of on the cusp of a playoff team. Or maybe you're kind of there where you're kind of average. You know what I mean? You're improving. You're getting there by the year. Or you're kind of a team there that's in mediocrity, or maybe doesn't really have much going forward to them. The Diamondbacks are lower than that. The Diamondbacks don't have a single thing going for them, and they need to tear it down. They need to rebuild completely, and they need to. That's what they need to do, and it might take a while. It might take a while, but that's the thing, They, maybe Bumgarner's a guy you move. I really don't know. He hasn't done anything for Arizona, so I think when you look at that NL West there, the Rockies and Diamondbacks, I think, are kind of in that same territory a little bit. So it's going to be interesting with this trade deadline because we've already seen one move with Jock Peterson being to the Braves, but Story, Bryant, Baez, Eduardo Escobar, we know Adam Frazier's probably going to get moved from the Pirates. Joey Gallo's been a guy that's been named, that's been talked about on being on the move. There's quite a bit of pieces. Max Scherzer's another guy from the Nationals. What do you do if you're in the Nationals? Max Scherzer, I believe, is 35, 36 years old. He's still playing at a great level. He can definitely bring a lot to a team that's on the cusp of winning. The Nationals can probably get a good bit for him. They're obviously not going anywhere this year. So do you move a guy like Scherzer where you get something for him before he hits a free agency? You know what I mean? Or are you going to keep him around? I really don't know. But he's another guy as well, I think, to keep an eye out for the trade deadline. But there hasn't really been anything. It's just been rumors. That's really all it's been. There hasn't been anything new going on. There hasn't been any kind of, talk of any kind in regards of things heating up. But Starling Marte is another guy, too, from the Marlins. He rejected a $30 million 3-year contract from them. They're probably going to move him. He got traded to the Marlins last year in 2020. He's been there this year. He's having a nice year. I think a team, there's been teams like the Phillies, Yankees, Angels that have kind of been throwing their name in the hat with him. He can bring a lot to that team, man. He can bring a lot to any team that needs a strong center fielder, outfielder. He can bring a lot. Starling Marte has been a very underrated player over the last several years, really when he got going. So I'd say probably since like 2014, I think he's really kind of been an under-the-radar kind of outfielder. He's a very good defensive hitter, or defensive player. I mean, he can hit the ball. He can hit you 20 home runs a year. He'll hit you around 280, 290 a year. He can steal you some bases. I think, a team like that would definitely benefit. Any kind of team that feels like they need that extra piece, go for it. But I don't know. I mean, we're going to be, talking about it. We're going to be on top of everything once things get closer and things get heated up. But it's pretty cut and dry in regards to the just rumors right now. There's nothing really heating up necessarily. So, but that's going to be it, guys. I mean, there isn't really it's been a dry weekend. With training camp coming up, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about coming out of that. So really, I'm looking forward to next weekend's show because we're going to be underway for training camp. We're going to be covering things that are going on. We're going to be talking about things. There's going to be definitely different stories. Expansion draft, look out for that. Probably either Thursday or Friday this week. And, because the expansion draft's Wednesday, the 21st, but I'm saying in regards of, extra content from me, check it out. Keep an eye out Thursday, Friday. And it'll be trade deadline. Hopefully there'll be some things that come across this week we can talk about, get into. We'll see what happens in the finals tomorrow night, man. I don't know. Could be the end of the NBA season. Or the Suns might take it to Game 7 for all we know. I don't know. I really don't know. But pretty cut and dry weekend, I think. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't going to be as long as the show as it was yesterday or even the weekend before. But with training camp coming up and preseason coming up, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about football related. And the trade deadline, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about as well. But thank you guys for tuning in to this episode 20, this Monday edition of In HEINTZ SIGHT. Like I said, keep an eye out Thursday, Friday for some extra content on the expansion draft. Maybe even something else, possibly. We'll see. Saturday, Sunday, we'll be back to normal schedule. But yeah, enjoy your Monday, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I'm excited to be back here to talk with you guys. You guys can follow me on Facebook at In HEINTZ SIGHT, Twitter, Nate_Heinz, Instagram, Nathan_Heinz. It's all in the link. It's all in the description down below. You guys can interact with me, keep up with the channel, follow those things. If you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would definitely mean a lot. We can definitely keep reaching more sport fans and have a lot great sports discussion here on this channel. I love to interact with all you guys. That's what it's all about. I love doing that. So feel free to do that. And thank you guys always for tuning in, for your support and everything. It always means everything. You guys are awesome. Looking forward to being back here this week with some extra content. Keep an eye out. But in the meantime, enjoy your Monday, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week. We'll see you soon. All right, guys.